everybody. My name is Vera McKenzie. I am the 2021-2022 Confluence Catalyst Theater Confluence Fellow. That's a lot of words to have to say in the morning for me. And welcome to Meet a BIPOC Artist. And this is a time for me and for the community to get to know people of color who are in our industry and are the movers and shakers that are happening now and movers and shakers that are coming to the forefront. And my guest today is the stunningly beautiful, the fabulous performer, Sokana Mfanyana. Yay, I did it!
We got it.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. So I just want to give them a little background on where I saw you. So I went to And the World Goes Round, the review that you did at MacEwan University.
Yes.
And you opened the show. And okay, this is going to feel a little weird when I say this, but when I saw you come out so strongly in that performance, like just stood in front of in the mid center stage to the audience, singing right to us, you reminded me of a very young, when she was singing in the church, Whitney Houston.
Oh, okay, somebody.
Right? So what I loved about you is your performance. It was so confident. I didn't feel like you were performing. I felt like you were like there was a conversation going on with you. You were so strong. And I got to see Whitney Houston perform, and it was just this solid strength that you bring. So that I just loved your performance, and I've wanted to get to know you for a while. And I just wanted to say, welcome to the vlog.
Thank you for having me in the vlog. But oh my gosh, thank you so much. Ooh, that was a mother of an introduction.
Well, you said Beyonce earlier while we were warming up here, and I went, okay, yeah, sure, I'll give you Beyonce. But no, honestly. So can you tell us a little bit of your background, where you're from, what brought you to Canada, all that stuff?
So I was born and raised in South Africa, born in Cape Town, so born on the coast, and then moved with my mother to Pretoria because she started working there. I think I was about 4. My timelines might be off, who knows? Mm-hmm. And grew up, so I was an only child, single mother, and grew up in Pretoria, Centurion to be exact. And I, from quite an early age, was involved in music and acting in a very weird way, I want to say. Because the acting was always sort of a part of my life, because it was just like, oh, my mom wanted a way for me to, my mom is not as much of an extrovert as I am. Mm-hmm. Just me and her. And I think my extrovert energy got a bit too much for her. So she tried to get me to channel it in other ways. And then I did random little projects and things when I was in kindergarten and mm-hmm. moving into school. And in grade 1, actually, I went to boarding school, long story, but I went to boarding school in grade 1, and there I did ballet and sort of started singing, maybe acting, who knows?
Yeah.
And then from about grade 4, I joined the Helen O'Grady International Drama Academy, because mom was like, if you're gonna have all this energy, we're gonna use it somehow.
So that's very smart of her, actually.
Oh yes. And I always had this dream that I wanted to be on TV. Yeah. And she made it her mission to make sure that I got on TV. So I joined this drama academy and then got with a casting agent, and I had all these headshots and long story short, that was how I started. And I did a couple of sort of TV commercials, was in drama school for pretty much all my life. I actually went to an arts high school, so quite similar to Vic. quite similar to Vic here in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And there I walked in, and on the first day, I remember I had auditioned for the drama program and got in, and I was meant to do so all of my other high school subjects and acting. And my teacher, in the midst of our like grade 8, because high school in South Africa starts in grade 8, and in the midst of my orientation, my teacher says, you're a really good actor, and I see that, but you're such a natural actor that I think it would be best if you moved to the music program. And I kind of went, well, that was like a shock. And long story short, I moved to the music program.
Yeah.
I had to catch up on music theory. Everyone else had this whole music theory background. I had nothing.
Yeah.
And I had to somehow catch up on 7 years of music theory training in the first month of high school.
Yeah.
And that was how I got into the music program. And I sort of sang ever since. And then in grade 9, I joined the University of Pretoria Youth Choir. And that is how I ended up in Canada. Because joining the youth choir, we have a sister choir, sibling choir here in Canada, the Kokopelli Choir Association. And I was the African exchange student in 2018. So after my grade 12 year, I was the African exchange student, and I came to Canada, sang for the choir association in various choirs, taught African music with Scott Eped across Canada, even joined the Edison Honor Choir for that year. And that is how I ended up in Canada. And the family that I stay with now sort of got me for 3 days on a choir tour in 2016, then signed up for 6 months with me in 2018 while I was on exchange. And now they're stuck with me for life.
Wow.
And now they are stuck with me for life. And a few of my friends sort of in the choir association and just within sort of our family friend circle did the theater program at McEwen, and I was looking at getting into theater programs because I'd gotten into a few in the US, but it was just way too expensive. And then we all kind of did well, I guess this is happening. And then I got into McEwen.
Awesome. And you're in the second year, right?
Yes. So I'm in my graduating year of the diploma.
I'm so happy for you. And I'm like, what I loved about watching you is that you already have, like, you can't teach stage presence and poise and confidence. You seem like an old soul to me. You seem like somebody that has through your work, and that's not like an older soul, like an old lady soul. You just seem wise. You seem wise to me. And when
that is exactly who I am.
And when you perform, you that comes out, that shines through. And so I love the fact that your mother, so many of us who are artists, we're ashamed of being artists because our families are like that. You're never going to feed yourself. You're never going to be able to pay the rent in the arts. So we need you to become a doctor or a lawyer. What I love about your mother is that she saw something in you and said, we need to channel that energy. And here you are.
Oh, no, that definitely, I think that is, as a person of color and just as a Black person, till this day, there are still people who are like to my mother, I'm not sure you really made the right decision. She shouldn't, like, how do you, they're like, you're sacrificing so much, sending her all the way to Canada to study this thing. And what if she just never becomes successful? And I'm always just so grateful for my mother and to God, because that was a blessing on its own. Not many people get that. And it's not that I'm not smart. I am smart. I'm just not an academic.
Yeah.
And
I quit school in grade 9.
Listen, I pushed through to grade 12.
I failed grade 1. To be
fair, grade 1 is hard.
Well, apparently.
I do need to point that out. Grade 1 is hard. But I am just so grateful for that, because at some point I was like, I remember when everyone was applying for university in grade 12, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna apply for psychology, I'm gonna apply for law, just because these are things I might be good at.
Yeah.
But I've always been sort of the vocational type, maybe.
Yeah.
That's how you put it. I am really good with my hands and very good with just being. And my mom is quite, in fact, the opposite.
You're right.
My mom is a amazing project manager and academic. She is in community development, has 2 master's degrees,
Wow.
a million other degrees. So it's like we are polar opposites in the craziest ways, but she somehow found a way to nurture something that she might not have even understood. And I'm really grateful for that. And she still sometimes is like, oh, gosh, I don't know what we're getting into, but we're doing it. But I am so grateful for that. And I still don't know how I'm going to pay the rent. So if people need someone to hire me, because rent does need to be.
Well, and see, this is the thing. This is why I wanted to talk to you, because I you know, your path is going to be your path, but you bring so much to the table already: responsibility, poise, all those things that I mentioned. I think that you have, I like to talk about this. I think you have an artist's heart. No matter where life takes you, art will always find a way in. And it seems to me like you've been living in your artist's heart for a long time. So I don't think you have to worry about that. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is, here in Canada, we celebrate, and in North America, we celebrate Black History Month. And for us, for me, Black History Month is important because here our history was never talked about. We weren't allowed to have history. It was stolen, it was talked against, it was, you know, forced out. And so I know it may seem really weird that it's a month that we're Black, but for you, being a landed immigrant and coming into this society, because there's not a lot of Black people here in Edmonton, I'm sure you've noticed, right? And in Canada. So what does it mean when somebody says Black History Month? What does that mean to you?
For me, I think sort of in the rise of, as we had just gotten into the pandemic, a lot happened. Yeah. A lot came to light, and it was a sort of rough couple of, well, it was the highlight of a rough couple of life. Yeah. For many Black people in North America and in the world at large, I'd like to say. Yeah. And it was a strange time for me, not having grown up in a place, but sort of just getting thrown into the deep end of something. And I remember just after that, in fact, I think it was towards the end of July, I got attacked on a bus by just here. I was going to the south side and was on a bus and got attacked, and it was, you know, a whole thing. And that was like this is not, people need to remember that this is not just a month, this is not just a phase. Black lives don't matter for just a couple of weeks because there's protests. This is an everyday lived experience. And I think, while I appreciate sort of the highlight of Black History Month, and that it is the month where Black people are appreciated and the history and the culture is appreciated. And when I say appreciated, I mean, I'm not talking about us slapping a kente cloth onto a couple of items and saying it's Black History Month. I, not to use such a harsh word, but I despise performative allyship, and it just irks me in so many ways.
You're not alone.
For many reasons.
Yeah.
But I strive, and I think I make this very clear even in my work and with people who work with me in various ways. I strive to make sure that not canceling the importance of Black History Month, but remembering that Black History Month should not be a month. In my humble opinion, and many may disagree with me, I understand the importance of Black History Month and what it means to a society and a culture that never had anything that identified them. But I think in everyday societies and communities need to make sure that we're integrating Black people, their history and their culture for what it is. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't be 1 month, because if we're going to put up posters for a month and wear t-shirts for a month, what happens 11 months around the year?
I totally agree. And I think, and because you're coming from the place of an apartheid, you come from,
and this is the strange thing, is coming from a place where you are the majority in race, but treated like the minority.
Yes.
And then moving to a place where you are a minority and definitely treated like a minority. There's this monologue that I've been working on for a while, from Every Day She Rose, written by Andrea Scott and Nick Green.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of towards the end of the monologue, she says, sort of the whole play is about this Black Lives Matter having intercepted the Pride Parade in 2016.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the monologue that I had sort of carved out within the play, Kathy Ann, talking to her white gay roommate, who's a man, Mark, says, earlier at the parade, security was watching us. Yeah. I know that because it happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Being followed in stores, getting asked where I'm from, those videos of Black men shot by police. That could be my brother or me. I need you to see me as a Black woman. And if you can't see me as Black, then you won't see me.
Yeah.
And for me, that is the essence. And it's so weird how in that little paragraph, in that little sort of stanza of a monologue, for the wildest time I battled with how am I going to show up in an audition with that monologue? I spoke to a couple of people. I was like, I don't want to seem like the girl that's going to walk into a theater and become the activist.
Yeah.
At the same time, I remember speaking to one of my instructors, and he was like, I understand what you're saying, but you need to be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not sure if I've answered anything you've asked me.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, that is sort of the crux of it for me, is if you won't see me as Black, then you can't see me.
Yeah. I got shivers when you were talking about the play and the monologue, and that's exactly it. And it's you've said quite succinctly and very clearly why it is important for us. Like I have a lot of people that say, I don't see you as a Black person. And
no, you're gonna see me as Black.
You have to see me as a Black person, because that is what I present, and that's who I am. And so you said it very well. And I'm sorry that happened to you, that the attack happened to you. I mean, it's a terrifying thing to have happened, but I think, yeah, you are by just being at a school where there aren't not a lot of us there. Of like when I was in the school, and when I was at MacEwan, I think I was the only black student there at that time in both years, I think. Yeah. So, and I was always told, you're never going to work. You're too gay. You're not Black enough. Right. Like I got all of these messages from everybody, including some of the professors. So we are activists, whether we like it or not. And you don't have to, like what I've learned is I don't have to be a shouting to the rooftop, screaming at all the injustices that I see. I've been there before. But a lot of the times activism is just showing up where we may not already have a space and creating space where we want to be. And that's what you're doing, I think. You walk, you know what I mean? Like you just by being present is activism, and that's enough.
Oh, 100%. Funny enough, talking to my mom the other day, she kind of went, okay, now let's not ruffle too many feathers. And I kind of went, well.
You aren't the one that does it. That you walk into a room and you ruffle feathers without trying.
And that is the thing. And funny enough, like a few days before talking to my mom about a thing that had been happening, one of my oldest and closest friends said, "Oh my gosh, let me guess, you're being Winnie Mandela again." And I was like, what does she mean? But I thought, okay, I guess this is who I am. And I for a while I thought, oh, I don't want to step on toes. I don't want to, but I'm glad. I'm so glad I am that person, because more often than not, I am the voice for those who can't speak. And sometimes it shoots me in the foot. Yeah. Sometimes I get the short end of the stick. And you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, because I know that there's a greater and a bigger purpose in it. I weirdly enough, in a meeting with the higher ups at McEwan, because I'm part of several committees, and in a meeting with the higher ups the other day, there was a conversation about sort of diversity and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I hear everything we're saying, and that we want to be diverse, and that we'd like McEwan to look like how the world looks. But you can't expect students to look the way the world looks if instructors don't.
Yeah. Oh my God, I went to the first year shows yesterday. I went to the first year shows. I forget the.
Oh yes, one. They did Laramie, and they did the other one. I forgot.
Amazing, like amazing. But I was thinking the same. Like I was thinking, wait a minute. Like most of the almost all of the faculty that I've met, they're all people. They're all Caucasian.
Wahites.
Right. And then Wahite, exactly. Like, how are we? So I was in the Performing Arts School, high school.
Yes, it's actually right up the block. Both my sisters, both my Canadian sisters went there.
Oh, like, okay. So I went in there and I met with this two-spirited, gender fluid student who's about to graduate, and they are First Nations, and they on their own went to the school board and said, you need to have some First Nations faculty on this, and they fought for a number of years to finally get two teachers. So you are on that front line. Like, that's what I mean. Like, you just hearing your perspective at McEwan, I hope that you stick with this. I hope you stick with this, because
I think I have hollered and I have made a noise for a while now about this, and I'm kind of like, it needs to happen, because it's so. And the example I made was the LGBTQIA plus students see themselves in many instructors.
Yeah.
They are represented in many instructors, and not to say that we sit and discuss sexuality in school, but at the end of the day, these are the conversations happening in the world. As a result, they will be happening in school, because school is the world. But it's so difficult for students of color to see themselves and to have someone who's going to champion for them, because no one looks like me. There's not a single person in my department who looks like me. I made the example at the beginning of the academic year in September. We had our orientation for the entire theater department, and God bless them. I know no one does this intentionally. It's just the way the world is right now, that we're all working to change. But we walk into the Truffaut, and as you know, the Truffaut is a ginormous theater. Probably I don't know how many seats are on there, but a couple hundreds. It's ginormous. And we've got all the faculty on stage of the Truffaut, and all the students sitting in the theater, just on the floor. And I look around, and I was part of the last sort of couple of people to walk in, and I had to stop and take a breath.
Yeah.
Because no one looked like me.
Yeah.
The entire stage with all the faculty was very Caucasian appearing. Maybe someone might have a little bit of something in them, but everyone. And I kind of went, whoa. Yeah. And I looked down at my fellow students and I went, whoa.
Yeah.
And I had to sort of be like, And I went to an instructor, I think that next week, and I kind of went, this happened, and I was uncomfortable. And I think we need to fix it. And of course, we're going to be met with the whole structural,
The gaslighting, the
there are,
gas. Yeah.
there are structures to hiring and
Yeah.
this and that and this and that.
Yeah.
But I made it very clear. I said, sometimes feeling represented doesn't mean hiring someone full time. Sometimes being represented means someone coming in and doing a workshop with us, means someone coming in the middle of a lab one Friday and us, like, I don't know, maybe we have an African dance class, as performative as that sounds,
Yeah.
like just
Yeah. Something
so that also students that come in, please, students, you know, it's you go to I remember the one big thing, sort of talking to instructors who are part of the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Committee within McEwan, the Faculty of Fine Arts at least. And they were like, we don't know what not that they don't know what the first step is, but sort of asking for my input on what is the first step that we take. And I said, the very first place you can start is the website.
Yeah.
Because when you went onto the Theatre Pages website, oh baby, whiter than a sheet of paper.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's difficult for me to apply to a school where when I look through the archives and I look and I'm like,
yeah,
no one here looks like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one here looks, and to the extent that I can recall, I'm not even from Edmonton, but from the top of my head, I can recall the Black students who've been in the McEwan program the couple of years before me. Just because they're friends of my friends, I'm sort of able to be like, oh, there was this person and that person. And it's like, that's how few they were. And yes, that is probably also a societal problem going back into our communities of color, just because of stereotypes that are put in that how we're going to pay the rent. And Black people, we're all destined to become accountants, lawyers, doctors, nurses.
Yeah.
You know, but there's so much room for us out there.
Well, and this is I agree, and I think it has to start on those places, like you said, the website. It has to start with an for me that's why I wanted to come in and mentor and be there for students of color and anybody that's queer or on the outside looking in, feeling like there's no place, because I was that person. I was you looking around, and I grew up in Alberta. I was the only Black child in many of the towns that we lived in, and small towns where they didn't have a word for me until Roots came out. And then I was called every name: Kizzy, Kunta Kinte, nigger, like every single word that was used to keep. Now they have the verbiage. So I applaud the fact that you are seeing what needs to be done, but it needs to be done on every level. And what I'm trying to fight is the system. Like, it's one thing to put a person of color up front and performatively to show that we're woke, but what about the system that surrounds that person? So if you have an artistic director who they've gone, okay, we have to have a Black person in this directorship, they put them in, but if the board is white, if the staff is white, if the systems that this theater was built on were built on white supremacy, then that Black person is going to fail. And then at the end of the day, people can walk away from this and say, oh, see, we gave them a chance and it didn't work. So
and also they're not qualified enough. They're not qualified enough. They just don't have, they need to have a master's to be able to teach here. And
sorry. Right. So, I mean, what I love about you is that I know that it must be at times a very lonely place for you to always, you will, by your presence and your confidence and your gender, let's not forget the gender piece, right? You are a strong, Black, confident, talented woman. I imagine you. Yes.
Sure.
So just all of that you bring, just know that there are people like myself who saw you on that stage that night in a room, in a cast of mainly white people, and you just did your thing. Just know that there are people that see what you bring to the table. And I really wanted to interview you because you're graduating in this year, right?
Yes, I'm finishing in April. Sort of continuing with the BFA is just not financially feasible now.
What I want from you though, what I want for you though, is I want people to see this and I want them to see your value. And I want people to reach out to you and say, hey, come in and let's meet. And I want to help you with that. I want to try to get you into artistic directors. I want to like introduce you to people because you really are amazing. And
thank you. It's you going back to sort of the night you came to the show. That was show week, and the build up to show week was probably one of the toughest weeks I've had in the program. I was in a very depressed place. Something had happened and it threw me way off. It would just put such a heavy, and I would just need to show up every night. And I did it every night miraculously. And I remember the week after show, it broke down. One night at 2 a.m., I ended up at the Alex in the psych ward.
Oh, I've been there. Your little brain just had enough.
My baby brain, it had enough. But I am so glad because my very first choir conductor, God bless her, so Lenta Marie Patu in South Africa at the University of Pretoria, said, when you get on stage and you perform, it's not about the 500 people in the room. It's not about the 1,500 people in the room. You need to touch one heart. She said, find a person in the audience and touch one heart.
I was one of everybody was on your side that night that I came. Like everybody, I came with Kate Ryan. And she's like, oh, this girl is, watch her. So continue.
She is, the love I have for that woman.
Her father was my mentor. Tim Ryan was my mentor. He was the one that saw in me what so many people didn't. He is the only reason why I am performing. So you do have, what I encourage you to do, and I think that this is so important, like you have a friend in me now, right? You have a friend in me now. You have a friend in Kate. There are probably a lot of people that are waiting for you to leave this program. And I just want you to know that for me, my door is always open just to talk, just to discuss things, to dream, to plan, to take risks. And there are people that support you already in this community. And I'm just really looking forward to what happens for you in the future. And I don't think that it's limited to Edmonton. I think that I just feel like you are just so poised and ready, and you know, your trip into your one night stay in the psych ward, that is life building. You have so much life that you've built up in yourself, the traveling, the living in strange places, being a stranger in a strange land. But you have, what I get from you is a real core belief system of, you know who you are and nobody's going to tell you anything else.
Oh, well, let's thank my therapist. Shout out to her. Thank you, Miss Christine. It's taken a while to get there, and I'm not gonna lie, I've always been a stronger character, and sometimes not able to balance between doing too much, and you know, it's always sort of been either or for me. It's like, if you're not gonna let me do it all, then I'm backing off. And I think getting to a place, weirdly enough, last year, so very explicable now, but I got diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. And started therapy, and because we had just lost my grandmother over the summer, and that shook my core. That was like, my doctor was watching me. My doctor was like, I think in 1 week I lost something like 10 pounds. My doctor was like, okay, we need to sort of get on this now. And but I'm so glad that all of those things happened, because I think that has been sort of a part of the shaping of who I am.
Yeah.
And being raised by a single strong Black woman does something to you that is in hindsight, back then you look at it, you're like, oh, she's so strict. Oh, she's so
Yeah.
But now looking back at it, I'm like, oh, I thank God. I thank God that he gave her the assignment, because I'm not sure anyone else would have been able to do it.
And she understood that assignment.
Listen, she understood the assignment. But
I wish we could. I would love to talk to you for another hour, but I do have to end our lovely conversation. Maybe we can do this again. Maybe we can set up another time for you to come in, maybe towards the end of the year. When do you graduate? When is the end of your university life?
I believe we finished Drowsy April 4th or something, which means we'll probably finishing around April 15th is probably my last class, somewhere okay. There.
So I'm in this fellowship till the end of May, and maybe even beginning of June. So let's do another interview a little bit after your time at MacEwan, and we'll continue this conversation. It has been a real honor to get to know you, and I thank you for sharing so honestly and so eloquently your experiences. And people, I can't wait to see what the world has in store for you, honestly.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, well, I'm just going to stop the recording now, and then you and I are going to continue talking. Thanks everybody for coming in and listening to us. Bye.